Welcome to Scrolling to Death. Today I have power duo and co-founders of Gravity Jack, Jen and Luke Richey. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi. You are both serial entrepreneurs. I'm going to include your bios in the episode notes, but you've really turned your efforts now to the gaming space and helping kids game safely. So can I learn what brought you here? We'll get into the details of Gravity Jack and education for parents, but I'm just interested in what brought you to this space where you realized kids and parents and families need help with their online activities and staying safe.
Wow, that is actually a really, really long story. So we
Okay.
started, well, I'll shorten it.
Okay.
We started in 2009 as an augmented reality company, and we actually had a game idea at the time. And you saw part of that game expressed in a game called Pokémon Go. So the geomechanics that were in that game were actually from us. And we were the only augmented reality company at the time in the United States doing a game. We had a gaming engine. And what we learned later was when Pokemon Go launched, there was a 34 to 40% reduction in suicide and self-harm in the major metropolitan areas where it was played. And for us, that was this major kind of awakening moment that one, gaming is actually part of the issue with these kids. And then two, you can actually create mechanics and drive behaviors that actually cause them to enjoy life and start looking up again. The whole idea behind augmented reality for us was never looking down at a phone. Ultimately, you're going to put on a pair of glasses and that's how you'll experience the world. And then your head's up again and you're interacting with humans again. And that's really the world we want to see. And I'm a trained suicide counselor. So there's definitely, a motivation for us to hey, how do we create mechanics that can save these kids? And Pokemon Go really, when they found that out, I don't want to slam them, but right at the time those studies came out, they also removed the geo features as a requirement. And you just watched the self-harm and suicide rates go straight back up because there was no true permanent connection. And that's one of the other failings that we want to solve is how do you bring kids together and create friendships that last and compel behaviors that ultimately drive dopamine in a positive way.
So you explain more, how did those rates go down when that launched? Because kids are getting outside more and they're interacting with each other even and real world experiences. So you think there's a real connection there?
Well, they showed it. There was multiple studies done. So, and it was always that 34 to 40%. You just got kids outside. So they were no longer isolated. The depression lifted, at least for a while. And isolation and depression, you may be gaming online with friends, but digital is no substitute for just being around humans. And whatever happens with our pheromones and you see somebody's real smile, those things that just cause something inside us.
Yeah.
And the number one complaint about Pokemon Go was that they didn't know how to interact with people when they got to the location. So they got thousands of people to a location, all passionate about a single subject. And then it was just this awkward moment after the digital event was done.
Yeah.
And they're like, how do we, but man, they could have put mechanics around that drove friendships and protected kids at the same time.
So they could have from there made the healthier choice and the choice that's best for kids and continue to invest in getting kids outside, still using their game, but engaging in real life and with other children. But instead, they focused on engagement and keeping kids on the game without invest. What happened from there?
It's such a short-term thought process that most game mechanics designers use, and they're training it now. You can't really go raise for a game right now in the VC world if you're talking about mechanics that are going to drive stuff like this. They're just not. The only mechanic you're allowed to talk about is how fast can I get them to spend? How much can I get them to spend? And how long will they spend that? Yeah, it's just money, money, money. They're just a dollar sign. But there are some games that have been shown, man, if you just treat a user like a human, if you love on them in the mechanics, that sounds weird, but where you create mechanics that actually create genuine fun, true connection, true friendship, you actually create a long-term user and player that they may spend less each month, but they don't feel ripped off and they don't hate your game 3 months later. They're like, I need to delete this. My daughter is saying that. She's 22 years old. She's got a game on her phone and she's like, I need to delete this. I'm like, yes, you do. It's compelling a dopamine cycle.
Totally. That's great that she's saying that and recognizing that. Um, Now, and we're going to focus on younger kids because it's a lot of parents who are giving their kids access to these games because we grew up with them and they were fun and not addictive. And you sat around with a bunch of friends and played and screamed and yelled and laughed, and it was a great time.
Mhm.
Um, what changed so much since the good old days of that type of gaming to the point where we now think parents need to be overseeing this and making smarter decisions around access?
Well, we used to sit around with Nintendo with the little tiny rectangle controller and Duck Hunt. We were physically together. You were
Yeah.
physically together at a console, on a couch, playing games and talking and engaging. And then as games transitioned more to isolation, where people are playing against, just more of the computers and not engaging together so much,
Mhm.
or behind the keyboard, like I say keyboard warriors and not in a positive way, where they can say and act and engage in ways that they wouldn't maybe actually do in the real world. They can say horrible things behind a guise of a keyboard that they wouldn't have done, to your point, back in the good old days. You're either at your house playing by yourself or you've got, friends all around you versus the more toxicity, the
Mhm.
isolation and then the cruelness. So.
Kind of turning my mind around one point you said at the end, like the parents. We're kind of coming at it from the premise of there are parents that care and they try to be involved in their lives. And then they've got people like you and TrueMe and GameSafe and people that work with parents like that. But there's just so many kids. I used to work the suicide hotlines.
Mhm.
And there's so many kids, they just don't, their parents don't even know what they're doing. And that's kind of where we're trying to go is we're trying to get to the kids that just nobody's watching and nobody cares about. There was like Jen said, it's so toxic. Like there, you can't express, "Hey, I'm in pain" to your peer group in gaming scenarios because you will just get literally destroyed.
Someone that's listening to this probably is already cued in and probably already monitoring their kids or on gaming or social media or whatever it is, or maybe even not letting them game like I've chosen to do because it just feels like so
Yeah.
much work to try to keep them safe and not worth it. But one thing about the suicidality that comes up for me, like I think it was last year, there was a boy, I want to say in Michigan, who was playing a video game and was being told to kill himself, and he did via gun, like, while he was logged into the gaming platform. And from there, I interviewed a ton of gamers because I was interested in what happened there and devastated about it and thinking, is that normal to be told to kill yourself while you're gaming? And from every gamer that I talk to, it's a nearly every time you play thing to hear, go kill yourself, go kill yourself. And if you're a kid in a vulnerable state already, and all of your identity is sort of around this like character or this game or this gaming community, that can be really real for you. Does that resonate with you? Do you see that kind of harsh language happening a lot in gaming communities?
Yeah, so we're creating a game, a mobile augmented reality game that's got a global reach. We're not going to get into any details of that, but a piece of the game within there is going to be a chat system. And a lot of games stay away from chat systems if they're like, to your point, you're like, that's too much work. I don't want to risk it. It's not worth it to me. So same thing for game developers, where in the chat they're just like, "Meh, we're not going to do chat." Then you have the other games that have chat that know what's going on. So there's two pronged to your point on the go kill yourself comments. I'm going to get to in a second, but also the human trafficking. So 63% of human trafficking for Gen A and Gen Z is done through gaming, through these
Oh,
chat systems. Yeah, exactly. It's like, ooh, it actually gave me goosebumps and not in a good way.
wow.
And so there's games out there that know it though. There was a big expose on Roblox that Roblox was number one for a while, the worst in the chat systems. And people don't even know it, that these things are happening. And so the reason I bring those up is because this need of a non-toxic chat environment is there. It's very much present in the gaming environment. We had one of our team members who was in an actual chat. I wish he would have taken screenshots, as horrible as it sounds, but he was in it just gaming, actually Discord, and one of the players pops in and says something like something to the effect of, "My parents are going through a divorce and I'm really struggling."
Mhm.
And it was like, I won't even repeat all of the things, but it was, "Go kill yourself, die, nobody
What
wants to
the
hear
heck?
about this, faggot," like horrible things. And
F you. It's
F
just
you. take it somewhere else. And so this kid is reaching out to his peer group, right? In his mind, he's thinking, these are my friends, these are my people. I'm struggling. I'm going to throw this out there. He gets vulnerable for a second, and then it was horrible. The gentleman who saw it, and I go, "What happened to the guy?" He goes, I don't know. He logged off, and then I don't know what happened." And I'm like, "Oh." So yes, it is very much present, and the need for that moderation, which is something that we're working on, and currently gazing for, is that safe, because we're still relational beings. So like that kiddo, I mean, they're in there saying, wanting to communicate, wanting to talk with their friend group about this thing, and then just get slammed.
There have been games that have done it really well, where they have built an environment where stuff like that is encouraged, where kindness, love, caring, like you can actually do that. You can create a culture within, just by using mechanics, and now especially using AI, where you encourage people to actually behave like they should to each other.
Okay.
And that's kind of what we're working on. We were originally going to do our game first, build the chat system in, but then there was such a huge call for this chat system. We started talking to devs, and like, yeah, I won't even add chat. I need it. It would help my game, it would help my community. So we're like, well, let's just develop this tech for other game devs, and be very strategic about a community where you just don't allow that kind of behavior. And you actually, these predators, they can be recognized by IP. There is so much. I mean, Roblox reported 13,000 incidents last year, but I can guarantee you there were millions.
Yeah.
Like those are the ones they were forced to do. They just
Right.
really don't care, because they're paying accounts. They don't care if it's a cartel member. They really, they're spending the money. So we kind of want to attack that problem first, and then actually, we'll also do these games that can compel behavior that's positive.
Okay, amazing. So good things on the horizon, but given the current state, parents will be like, well, I keep chat off, so it should be safe, right? Would you agree if it's safe if you keep the chat off?
I know. I mean, you'd be shocked at, like, so we have a friend who used to run a very large human trafficking rescue group. Most people know, but I won't say the name. He would be on the rescues, and they have sales scripts. So basically the human traffickers pay people that sit in their trailers and pretend to be kids. And I don't know if they're in trailers. I'm being facetious, but they're around the world. They follow literally like an insurance sales script, but it's for how do you compromise a child and get them to compromise themselves. And they actually have a term for what happens if a kid gets so compromised and so scared he kills himself. Because of the situation they put this kid in. Because they don't want him to kill themselves. They want to compromise them to the point where they can then extract things from them. And there's like games like Dora the Explorer. There's a very, very famous person that had his daughter human trafficker. They ended up getting this guy, but the trafficker. But the guy was working this. I mean, they are so smart about it. Yeah, I actually applaud you for just being like, no. That would be my preference for everybody, actually.
Because, right, I know there's still tricky ways to get a hold of the kids despite the chat being off, but also they're addictive. And I know my son, especially, if I let him play, 20 minutes a day on the weekends, even, it's all he would talk about. He would try to sneak it. He would lie about it. If someone's babysitting him, he would sneak it. Like, I just know it because he's susceptible to that digital addiction piece. Talk about the addictiveness of the games today and what parents need to know about that.
I think that the most critical thing as a mom and now grandma is just being fully and completely aware, to your point, is they are addictive, and they are on them, and they are gaming. I mean, it sounds really like doom and gloom. The vast majority of the games, if not close to all of them, to Luke's point earlier, where it's that predatory. So the financial investors into the gaming world are wanting that quick dopamine, that quick hit, that quick turnaround, and the monetization of things. So if all of the financial investors into an entire industry were primarily preying on the user, the kids, then you could bet your bottom dollar that's what's happening to them, right? So for step one, we need to get more financial investment into the gaming industry from those who are behind wholesome, who are behind, cultivating community where the kids are already going to game for the most part. What can we do? What kind of games can we provide to them that can instill, positive encouragement of each other, how to treat each other, where the mechanics within that you're earning things because you're kind to people or you're helping people, those types of things. So I think that's that's one piece. On the addictive, I mean, it's like I said, it's very much there, and you're just
Yeah.
lying to yourself if you're trying to say it's not. So then is what types of games are they playing? It goes back to the how often. I mean, it is a teaching moment of moderation. So moderation in general. I mean, adults need to be able to self-moderate them, from all kinds of things.
Yeah, totally.
But it's definitely very present in gaming.
So even if you have them offline, chat off, away from the predators, the games itself are predatory in a way, stealing their time.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
it's time, it's money.
Right.
There is an upswell because Jen and I have been so vocal about this for the last year. There is an upswell of we've been contacted by maybe over 100 developers. Like, hey, I self-funded this game because I couldn't get the VCs to do it. Here it is. Here's the mechanics. Here's how it drives positive behavior. It's like when you played a board game as a family, nobody got upset. And hopefully nobody got
upset. No.
Well, yeah.
Monopoly got pretty rough in our house.
I should have meant nobody got addicted.
Right.
Because eventually you're like, okay, I'm bored of Monopoly. That's actually the feeling that you should get when you're playing these games, not this where you could play it all night long and binge on it. There's something wrong. And there are a lot of developers that are aware of this. And I know I'm speaking too much to the future and not the now, but there is something changing where we're not the only ones with this thought process. And there actually are a really good set of wholesome games. It's just nobody's kind of aggregated them. And so we're working on that also as a kind of interim step to the chat system where we can say, hey, here's some games that are just, they're not going to weird your kid out. You'll have fun playing them. You may be doing it as a family, and then it's just done.
Can you send me a few of those just in case there's a parent on that's like, okay, today I want to swap out from Fortnite to something else, and here's some options in the episode notes. So, but also in addition to choosing healthier games, do you think it's important to add on third-party parental controls in addition to whatever the game offers, like something like Game Safe?
As a mom and a grandma, absolutely. Because here's the thing: you don't know what you don't know, technologically speaking, and not just in games, in apps, and all kinds of things. There's so much happening behind the scenes that we're just ignorant to. So why not put an extra layer of protection onto them? I mean, absolutely. Now there's a trick. So as Luke was saying earlier, where things where these podcasts and awareness and you're just no gaming at all. And then the parents are putting protections, which are amazing. And my simple answer is absolutely. Why wouldn't you? And then the next step is how can we create ecosystems that protect players in a positive way that they almost don't even realize, right? Like a 12-year-old boy not be like, hey, mom, can you come protect me in my game from this? Generally speaking, but if we can, at the chat system, but if we can have a really cool chat ecosystem that players want to go to because they can talk to all their friends and they feel good, they don't feel like somebody's telling them to kill themselves every other day, that they're going to want to go in there, then we're able to protect the kids who are blessed enough to have the parents who are putting the game safe and putting all the parental controls on. And then we're also protecting the kids that don't even know that they need.
Yeah, I think that's an issue with kids across all the online platforms. They don't know that things are wrong because everyone's doing it around them. Everyone's screaming profanities and being violent in these games, and an adult's telling them something, and they don't know in the moment that is wrong. I've talked to kids who have been groomed online and on gaming, and they're like, I didn't know it was wrong, and I needed the platform to tell me or some monitoring system to pop up or tell my parent because I didn't know to go to anybody, and then until it was too late. So I really want to touch on VR because I have concern about it. There was a recent FTC complaint against Horizon Worlds by Meta. I watched some of the investigative videos from inside of Horizon Worlds, and it's just small kids. I could tell they were 6, 7, 8 years old, cussing at each other, yelling at each other, talking about inappropriate things. And it was really shocking to see. Plays into what you said, there's parents that just don't know any better. So they give their kids kind of open access from early ages, and dads especially get excited about this new technology, VR, and I want to let my kid play with it. What what's your opinion on minors accessing VR type video games?
For me, we create them. We develop them. I've got an Oculus sitting over here. I've done VR games with my son. They can be fun. They can be so fun to play together. It was such a bonding time for my son and I. I mean, I can't handle it for very long because I do get motion sick in and out of VR. But it was fun times together. But just like anything, I think that you need to be careful. And they've got that companion for those that don't know. So like if my son was playing his game, you could just be on your phone and I could see everything he's seeing on my phone and vice versa. Or you can AirPlay, to a TV or a computer. So that's how we would VR together with one headset because we're watching what the other person's doing. So that would be number one. But anybody going into VR, having free reign, it's just like the App Store. I mean, you can put on VR, you can go to the VR App Store and it's like, it could be the Wild West. Make sure you know what they're going into.
I'll add that when you watch a YouTube video, let's say you watch it in 2D, you experience it a certain way in your brain. Like with brain scans, they've done this. Now you watch the exact same thing occur in VR or augmented reality or with a Z-axis, meaning the way our brains process things spatially. You process it emotionally like you're actually there. So when you're in VR, things can be massively more traumatic and they can also be massively more healing. So they're using this in PTSD research. Like they've realized, hey, if I can create an environment where you have to relive the experience and there's a Cartesian aspect or a Z-axis, meaning 3D, all of a sudden people can walk through this experience and start actually healing. So there is a power to it that it's so dangerous. Like, I mean, there is even what you're experiencing when you walk into those things and then somebody says, kill yourself there, you're going to process that with your whole brain and your emotional centers.
Yeah.
And it's very different than just seeing it on the screen. So I would not ever let my kids go in unsupervised without knowing what they were doing, where they were going, and what other pieces. I just feel like these companies, there is no love for the customer. Like I feel like genuinely they hate us for the most part. And there is only just one thing they want, and that's time and money. Yeah. And it's like, how could they absorb that? And if it's time, it's so that they can sell your data to somebody else. So there's no motivation to do anything healthy, even if they say there is. Like they'll say these words, and their behaviors and actions don't match.
Two things. One tip that I would suggest for the here and now for parents in gaming, VR gaming, any of the above, which is like a good litmus test to test with the kids too, is if the player is not willing to play, like it might be annoying for the parent a little bit, but these are the things we have to do to protect our kids. Have a spot in the living room that's where they can game, not protected in headsets where they're the only ones hearing what's going on. Doesn't have to be blasted at 100, but I want just have the audio open. Just talk through the computer to your friends, to your whatever, and that's how you can game. The same thing with VR, because you can have the audio outward where it's not just happening in here. And so if they're like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. So it's instant flag that something's happening in that game. Yeah. And the second thing for what's to come into what Luke's talking about the games holistically and us peons, with where AI is now and where it is rapidly coming, like in the next 6 to 12 months, if a game is choosing, because it's going to be very easy for AI to be flagging those conversations of things that are happening, like to kill yourselves and the horrible comments, it's going to be very easy to incorporate that into a game. So if a game is choosing not to have that involved in any way, shape, or form, it's a red flag to both the player and the parent. Why are they not? It was like Roblox. Roblox knows what's happening in their game, and they are choosing to turn a blind eye and make the money. Why is anyone playing that game? Period.
I agree. And after that whole Hindenburg research report, instead of like addressing the issues that they were not moderating within their game, they just added and revamped their parental controls, like putting more responsibility on the parents to keep their kids safe on a platform that's not safe.
We're absolved.
Yeah. But the acceleration of this technology to just touch one more time on the VR, like I remember in 2020 going to, I think it was right before COVID, going to one of those VR places where you have to go and pay and you pick a game and you get to, you're doing it like as a date night, like with
Yeah.
someone else, and you experience it and then you go off on your way. And then all of a sudden now we can put our 4-year-olds on VR games in our homes. So the rapid acceleration of this and like the overstimulation, like you talked about, Luke, like their virtual experiences, it worries me that it could end up trumping their real world experiences, whether or not they're getting like super cyberbullied or preyed upon within the games. Just over time, won't that overstimulation become the norm, and then everything else is so dull and boring, and how could that be good for them?
I don't think it is. I do think it's heading there though. So it's like we have to fight back. Like one, you have to, like what you're doing. You have to fight. Here's this real stopgap. But then what do we do in this when we know there's going to be digital natives, and there will be people that will grow up, maybe even in generation beta, that have really their whole life experience digital. So it's like, how do we draw them out? How do the people that actually understand this isn't healthy for you, how do we pull them out? So we're like, we need all these layers. And I really, really hope, I mean, I just wish there was legislation where there was responsibility for some of the things that happen on these platforms, and that there was liability also, so that some of these victims could actually go after the places that knew. I mean, here's an example. It was a study like probably 6 years ago. They took data from Facebook chats. It was anonymized data, and they were able to tell and they had all kinds of information, like how fast people typed stuff, what they typed, what they were posting, and then what they were able to do is train a neural network, and they could point to a person that was suicidally ideating, and they could predict that they were going to take their life, even if they didn't post that. But because the AI could actually see cadence and rhythms, and they had like a 89% pattern recognition of. So this is the power that these people have from the data that they've collected, and they don't use it for any form of good.
Oh my
And
God.
so they actually, so these studies came out and they shut down the access to the data
Oh
for
my
purposes
God.
of that type of research.
Yeah.
So you could literally, you could have interventions occurring on social media and in these games live. And it could even be done subtly, like, how like you go in and you actually proactively help these kids instead of reacting or hoping they call a suicide hotline or something like that. So this is why I say I think they hate us.
Yeah, and instead Meta has been investing in their new AI chatbot, which has been sexually engaging
Yeah.
children.
I
So
have married marked on my Facebook. I don't even use it. And I have married, and it always pops up the dating app for me. I'm like, why would you do that? Like
oh my
what
gosh.
compelling, and it's always showing a notification there. Like in
Mhm.
the dating, and I'm like, I'm married.
It
That's
says,
the part.
I'm married.
That's the part when they know the data. Correct me if I'm wrong, Luke. Was it TikTok with the eating disorder study that came out?
Yeah.
Was it Instagram? Are you familiar with that one, Nikki?
I think it's Center for Countering Digital Hate, maybe.
Yeah.
They're I can't speak to the details in the moment, but
The point is just that they got the data. They were able to show it ex post facto as well that certain, I think it was primarily females, are struggling with these eating disorders, and they were teeing up content that would make it worse, essentially.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is there no consequence?
Yeah, preying on insecurities just to keep them on longer. And in that TikTok study was interesting because they CCDH was just counting like hashtags, because that was publicly available, how many times certain hashtags were used, and there was like eating disorder hashtags and suicidal hashtags, and they were just reporting out the numbers. And then like the day after the report went live, TikTok just removed access to be able to see the number of hashtags. So it's like,
Yeah, that's your answer.
right?
That's their
I know.
answer.
Yeah.
We got caught. That's what it is. We're caught, and so we're not going to let you see.
And parents, we have control over what happens in our home. I always think about that, because there's a lot of access that's happening at schools, which we don't have a lot of control over. I'm doing my best to figure that out. But one way with the VR thing, like Meta has created an education program called Meta for Education, where they are selling VR sets to schools to have kids learn through VR at school. Do you have any opinion on that?
It can enhance learning, like because you have the Z axis, You actually learn experientially like it's hands-on. So this is what I'm saying, it's such a powerful technology and you can, but their motives aren't for that reason. Their motives are for because we want you as it's just like Apple when they give student discounts. I mean, a little less nefarious, I think, than Apple just providing laptops, for schools. But I think there's a nefarious intent, but it actually is a really good learning mechanism for retention, especially.
Well, and that's
Okay,
that study that was done on when they literally hooked them up to all the stuff, seeing where the synapses are happening in the brain. So we've done industrial executions at our company in VR, learning, maintenance, training, repair, and they actually learn. So instead of going like a power line, when they're teaching people how to repair power lines, well, it's dangerous. They can literally electrocute them. And so if they can teach and train them in a virtual reality environment, there's actually a safety mechanism and then they retain it. So it is in education. That is a very real reality.
I wonder too, because one issue with learning via devices like screens is that there's too many distractions, that you're using an adult device that has access to all these other things. So kids are bopping around, getting notifications, playing games. But with VR, it feels like there could be more control over what you are focused on and learning about without distractions. So that's interesting. But what I don't trust is Meta providing these products. There needs to be a responsible AI company, which I know that there are plenty providing child-facing products, and it's just not Meta. Can't be Meta. Let's talk about the future a little bit. So we've kind of been a little doom and gloom, but what hope do you have for more healthy gaming experiences for our kids and opportunities in the future?
Like COVID did from a geopolitical awareness perspective, something about that time frame woke people up to a lot of things happening all over the globe, all over in neighborhoods and households, et cetera, in education. I think that when things get really dark, it's an opportunity for light to shine. And I think a lot of people have seen the darkness. They've seen the suicide. They've seen the go kill yourself, the human trafficking that's happened through. Like the awareness is more prevalent, I believe, now. It's like at a peak of doom and gloom, which is an opportunity for people to come in, gamers, game developers, for parents to be more involved. I think that young kids seeing friends hurt through that and hurting themselves through that, they don't want that. There's more of a hunger for something different, where more people, I gotta stop playing that game. There's this like awareness peaking. So my hope is that as this awareness of the dangers is peaking, that the positive stuff is right around the corner.
A really actually wonderful stat is 46% of Gen Z is actively trying to reduce their screen time. There's movement, like Jen said, like when you kind of hit the bottom, and I don't think we have, like there's more darkness that tech companies could, propagate, but it's pretty dark. And so like Jen said, there is a resurgence of something saying, you know what, we don't like this. And it's, you're seeing that expressed in, hey, I want less screen time, but you're seeing it expressed in church attendance for the Gen Z demographic. It dropped all the way down to 4%. It's now starting to rise back up again, at least in America and some strong economies. And so there is kind of a bounce back occurring.
And that generation just tells me time and time again, every time I talk to somebody in that age range, I wish my parents wouldn't have given us access so early to social media, to online gaming, to smartphones even. And I will never let my child have access to these things.
I love them.
Yeah. So I think there's a self-correction too that will happen because they grew up with it and were exposed without their parents, us, knowing that there was such a threat there. So what's needed so talk about Gravity Jack, but also talk about like what's needed from gaming companies and AI companies in order to be more responsible in this space.
So we're currently raising for that chat platform where we want to have not just an ecosystem, and it's not just a chat. Discord is a place where players can go and have community and talk. That's where that kiddo that came in and said, my parents are going through a divorce and people were horrible to him. Twitch is an environment where people will watch other gamers gaming and interact with them there. And so we want to create an ecosystem that allows all different games, different types of games, wholesome games. By wholesome, you're not looking at Grand Theft Auto. We're not allowing for chat that it's going to be Killer Shop. It could be racing games in there, all kinds of engaging community games, but a place where the player has all of their friends, they can talk cross games, because a lot of games now, they keep their players tight because it's all about the money. It's all about that, monetizing them. They're, again, that peons. It just keeps coming back to that. That's what we are to them. Yeah. And so all of these games have their players and they control them and they don't, release them or share, if you will, where it's not about that. It's about the player being able to talk to their friends across games, across platforms, because it's just their community and creating that environment. It also have AI sentiment analysis, two different types. One, the predatory. We will be able to see when the predators are in there. It'll get flagged, remove a whole plan and process for that. And then also the AI sentiment analysis when players are struggling. So when that kiddo reaches out, my parents are going through a divorce and, I don't know what to do. There's other players that can come in. There's other community members that can come in because it gets flagged. Hey, I'm sorry you're struggling there, and they can talk them through it. And it's all positive communication in there. A place where people can go have actual friendships and none of the toxic stuff is allowed. So that is key. There's so much more to it from a game mechanics perspective, where we're actually going to be giving this chat system away to game developers so that they can incorporate it into their games because it's expensive for game devs. So if they can incorporate this, there's more things where, the user will then get different game swag by becoming a member of the community. So it's like a win-win-win for everyone involved and very much a need. So that's phase one for us. And then we go into creating our game, Wartime of Binyamin. It's a mobile AR game. I won't go into all the details, but it's fun. Okay. It's getting kids outside, real world physical stuff. Parents can play with the kids if you want. It's like unity and community through gaming, rather than isolation and desperation.
That's something I would let my son try, maybe, is a game that can bring him outside, and has and give him limits, but he can't sit inside and it doesn't work that way.
Well, and a second piece of that, especially from like a mom's heart and where we're at, I think, as a body of humans, is kids struggle communicating. They struggle relationally. Right. They don't know. So let's say we get 25 kids in an event to do a digital quest in the game, and they go in person and they do the quest. And then they're like, they don't know how to say, "Hi, I'm Jen. What's your name?" Right. "I'm Nikki. Let's da-da-da." They don't know how. So we, through our game, will actually in the mechanics have them talking to each other physically. Where it's like, okay, you have to find somebody else at the event that has this sword. Or this car, or this sweatshirt, and they're, "Hey, do you have this?" "No, I don't, but do you have this?" And so it's like teaching them how to engage with one another through gamification.
And I think once you break that initial ice, they're fine because they are kids, but it's like those first interactions. My daughter struggles with that. She's like, "I don't know what to say."
I don't know what to say. That's why we're going to give you things to say in the game, which is
that's
going to
great.
be really fun. I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm most excited for. The game mechanics, we worked with psychologists, neurologists, every mechanic is thought through for one, how to compel something positive it might be a dopamine response, but it's not from this, or it's not from an addictive perspective. It's from the way we were designed to get dopamine.
Right.
And what I'm most excited for, though, is for people to see that you can use mechanics for really anything you want. They're just only using it for this one thing. But as a result of using it for something positive, the profit does follow. And we designed it for families. So you could have your mom, very low bar gameplay, but she's still a part of what you're doing. And so it's just this fun thing. And then when you turn it off, it's not something that you feel compelled you have to check.
Right. Okay.
And so this, we're trying to get this. It's like, hey, do you guys want to do this? Like a Friday night, or it's Saturday. Let's see what we could. So I'm excited to show the world like that, man, that Pokemon Go, they almost had it. Like you could have just ran that ball.
Like, we do tech together in our house, so anytime they even watch TV, it's like I'm there too, and it's not short episodes. It's like a movie, and it's a little boring. Like, I'm like, can we get something else that's like something? It could be digital, but something we can do together. And I won't do the video gaming platforms as they are now. So this is exciting for families. And you mentioned the dopamine. I just want to touch on that really quick because I was talking with a psychologist about, if your kid's using tech a lot and you want to try to wean them off a bit. And she said during that time, because they are experiencing dopamine hits from the technology that's similar to being addicted to it, they can also get a lot of dopamine from interacting with you as their parent. And so replace that time, like go above and beyond to play board games with them, go for walks with them, do activities with them, you and the kid, and that will replace that dopamine hit that they were getting from the technology.
I love that. Whoever said that, I like it.
I know. I'm like, because a lot of parents are like, I put them on the technology so I can go do other things, get stuff done. But we can't do that anymore because of the access and the exposure and the predators. We have to be more careful about that. And I think once we wean them off of that, like Mike, and not to brag about our family life, but they come home from school and they all disperse and do their own activities, whether it's reading or playing with cars or playing outside and laying in the grass, whatever it is. But there's no option for technology, so they have developed skills to be able to be bored and creative in their own minds.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Isn't it fascinating how much, the 20-somethings to teenagers, they don't know how to be bored?
Yeah, I know. Even me, even us, like you get in the car and you're like, how fast can I put a podcast on or like music on? I can't just like sit for a second in the silence.
I think practically in lines, it's the weirdest thing. You like put your phone in a pocket and just look around like you used to do. Like
I know. Yeah.
That's all you could do.
Yeah. Even like exercise, like going on a run, I'll try to just not bring my phone now to be like, okay, what can I just like be in my thoughts? And you feel so good after like sorting through things. It's crazy. Okay. So what call to action is there now for Gravity Jack? Are you looking for funders? Where can people go to find out more? So speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so we are raising funds right now for that chat platform that will lead to War Tribe. You can definitely go to our website. Feel free to email either one of us if anyone has a heart to really transform gaming and especially that AI sentiment analysis. Like, let's be there for the kids. Let's be there for the players, not just abandon them.
Beautiful. And is it gravityjack.com?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll include that in the episode notes, plus all the games that you guys would feel good about as of now. And I'm sure that will develop over time. But thank you. I'm so grateful that responsible parents and grandparents like you are. That's crazy that you guys are grandparents.
3 of our 3 grandparents.
That's crazy. Like my age. But I'm so grateful that we have that's what I always say when I find a responsible tech company of any kind. I'm like, thank God we have responsible parents that are and we're taking the time, years to build these things responsibly, because that's what it takes. You're not moving fast and breaking our kids in the process. You're actually like trying to support them. And so thank you for everything you're doing. And we'll keep in touch. Please keep in touch with me as it expands.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Nikki. And you keep fighting.
You're welcome. Thanks. Yes. I'll try. I will.